After completing the rough weights, the next step is to begin smoothing the character. We have a lot of parts that don't quite work properly. One of the areas being the hips, where we get a lot of unnatural blending. The easiest way to start working with smoothing in XSI is to activate your paint tool. Adjust your brush size with your middle mouse button. Remember that you can always use the radius attribute, and you can either switch to smooth mode, or I prefer to press the Alt key. And I'll just make the brush larger and smaller depending on how much blending I want to do. The idea behind blending, of course, being that you're gathering all of the points within the radius of the brush and you're averaging them out amongst the points. And there's a bit of a weighted average going on in the sense that points that are closer to one another will use more of their neighbor's weights than the distant object. So it's kind of a blended weighting. In any event, I'm just going to start painting the character on one side and of course mirror the weights to the other. When it comes to the pelvis, start with a small brush and just begin blending. So pressing Alt, I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger as I kind of expand out on the pelvis line. Get a little bit bigger. In this case, it's getting larger as the polygon separation gets larger. This might be a little bit strange, but don't be fooled by the colors of the points. All this tells you here is that this particular point is weighted more than 50% to this bone. This is the color that represents the deformer with the most influence. So we could have 51 and this could be 50, but the difference is pretty stark, but it might not be so. Anyways, I'm just going to keep blending. As I get into the waist, I'm actually going to undo what I've just done there. I'm going to blend between these three rows, and you can see they start smaller, they expand apart a little bit, and then they come back together. So I'm just going to blend to here, make that brush a little bit smaller, and blend back in. And this might not be such a big deal when you're dealing with points that are spaced this far apart, but when you start dealing with meshes that may have a few 100,000 points at higher resolutions that you need to fine-tune the results a little bit more, the size really does matter. Blend under here. Get that brush nice and small when we get right into the crotch line there. Alright, so that's the pelvis area.